Hi, everyone. I'm Chris from National Parents Organization, and tonight we have two very special guests on. First guest we have is Teresa Harlow. She's an author and a coach, and she's here to talk about the International Child Center Divorce Month, which is this month in January. And we also have Elizabeth McNeese here, who's here to talk about her new documentary, We the Parents. Both of you, thank you so much for coming on, and we've got a lot to cover tonight.
Thanks, Chris, for having me.
So, Teresa, let's start with you. How did the month come about? It's the International Child Center Divorce Month. I know it's kind of a mouthful. I have to keep looking at my notes here. But how did it come about, and what's it supposed to center on?
I think I told you in an email that it was the 17th year. And actually, as I look at the website, it's the 18th year that this has been underway. A lady by the name of Rosalind Sadaka started this. She's the founder of childcenterdivorce.com. So in her efforts to provide outreach and assistance to parents of divorce and separation, she created this month-long event where those that are in need can go to this dedicated website and download free gifts from a variety of different professionals that work with families in distress in the divorce and separation scenario. So you've got all kinds of things. You've got eBooks, audiobooks, co-parent coaching sessions for free, all kinds of things that parents can take advantage of. And it's only good through the month of January.
And what are some of the freebies that people get this month?
Well, I'm offering my free audiobook. So my book, Combative to Collaborative, the Co-Parenting Code, is available in 3 formats. And for this, I'm offering the free audio format because everyone wants to hear me speak for another 5.5 hours, I figured. And, because, hey, doesn't that sound like fun? And also I'm offering a free complimentary 30-minute co-parent coaching session, a virtual one. So if you're just wondering what's co-parent coaching about, or could it help me to do a better job as a co-parent, or to be more collaborative with my former partner, I can talk to you about that and give you some ideas. There's no obligation to do anything else. Seriously, no strings attached. It's just to give you 30 minutes to chat and find out what might be the most helpful avenues for you to move forward. But in addition to what I'm offering, there's divorce coaches that are offering like free tip guides. I know there's others offering a lot of eBooks. There's a lot of eBooks out there for that are going to be available, or that are available, I should say. You've got some sponsors right up front, so just FYI, so you can see what they're offering. And then down, if you keep just scrolling down through, there's probably, I don't know, 25, 30. I didn't count them, but there's free access to other professionals guides so if you're just trying to find the type of professional you need in the divorce space, you can reference those materials, and all kinds of things. So I would just invite you to go to the website, which is divorcedparentsupport.com/free gifts. And I'm sure, Chris, you'll put that in your show notes so that people can get to it. But again, it's only available for the month of January. And it's a great opportunity to get free information, maybe some free coaching and free downloads to help you do better.
Yeah, we'll definitely get those notes in the show notes so people can just click on the links and go right to it. And lots of great information out there. And, through your work, have you seen where people are now realizing the benefits of, for the kids with co-parenting?
Oh, well, absolutely. This all started for me with my personal story. As you know, we've talked before about that. And so, I wrote my book based on living the experience. Originally I just wanted to tell my story about how we did it and how it was possible. Because I was like, everyone just needs to know it's possible, because sometimes it just seems like it's out of the question and there may be some kind of weird, expectation that you're supposed to dislike or hate an ex or an ex-partner. and that you shouldn't get along, when in fact, why does that need to be the case when all that does is make life more difficult for everyone, including you, and certainly for your kids. So, I wrote our book first, Happily Divorced. And then in talking to some other fairly large name authors, they suggested I really go beyond my experience to dig into it further and provide a more broad spectrum of assistance to co-parents. So because I didn't encounter a lot of situations that others do, so I really dug down into that and provide parents some guidance using stories that I drew upon from others and other experiences I had had in different roles within the parenting realm, step parent, and the spouse of someone who was a divorced a child of divorce. So I could really give a broader set of ideas for people to consider as they're trying to co-parent and how they can come through that more successfully. But I'm a certainly a great example of why co-parenting is beneficial to a child. My son was 6 years old when his dad and I divorced, and he's 30 now, and he'll tell you he had a happy childhood, and he was none the worse for it. As far as he's concerned, he had a great childhood. And sure, it was his only reference, but he's well adjusted. He's a functioning human being, caring, and he's in a successful relationship of his own, which isn't always the case for kids of divorce.
Yeah, I mean, the TLDR on that is you were very fortunate to not have to go through a lot of those situations. But I'm glad that you went and did the research and really included that because one thing that I've learned through all of this and talking with so many different people is that really everybody has sort of a unique experience, good or bad, through this whole divorce process, right? And some better than others, but certainly everybody's journey through this is unique. And there are just so many different situations out there. And, we see a lot of the same things happening, particularly in high conflict cases. But if you can avoid those, you're much better off for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll also mention I'm giving a bonus that I just decided to do today to podcast listeners and others who happen to stumble upon it. I'm adding in a free excuse me, a free ebook of my Combative to Collaborative, the Co-Parenting Code, but I'm only offering that this weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I know podcasts live beyond the moment, so that may or may not be something that lines up to this podcast episode. But if so, then cool. You can get a free copy of the ebook as well.
That's awesome. And we'll put links to how to get to that in the show notes, of course. And hopefully people will get this out as soon as we can. We'll definitely get it out before the weekend. But yeah, this is good information. And how long have they been doing this divorce-centered or child-centered divorce month for January?
Yeah, they've been doing it for 18 years. So it's got quite a history. Excuse me. And I think a lot of the people that sign on continue to provide their support to it every year. It's got good sponsorship as well. So I think it's really a well established set of information you're going to come to.
Well, that's fantastic. And Elizabeth, I know you've been kind of sitting there a little bit quiet. I want to talk a little bit about your documentary that's coming out, and it's called We the Parents. And I know we did a little bit of a thing on it before, but tell me, what's the reaction been so far to people who've watched the documentary?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So this week, January 11th on Thursday is when we're premiering the film We the Parents for the World. It's going to be on YouTube for free. We wanted to create a film that really could educate people who might not have been through family court to have an understanding of how things really operate, and also get to know some of the families and parents who've actually gone through it. So the story is told from the perspective of parents whose lives have been crushed through family court. These are average people. These are not crazy extreme cases. A lot of times people have heard of extreme cases, so they understand that those exist. But what's lost in translation a lot of times is that there is a lot of parents who are just regular people, mom and dads who love their kids, who are having a hard time going through divorce. And unfortunately, the way our system is and the way our laws are designed, there has to be typically a primary parent or a custodial parent. And so where that leaves you is parents fighting over the kids, and that is not good for children. And so we wanted to not just have an awareness piece, but also provide real stories that can guide all of us through next steps on what we can collectively do to change the culture that we're in. So we've had some private screenings that started in the first week of November. So we finished out 2023 with about 4 dozen private screenings across the world. It wasn't just the United States. And the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. It's been screened by people who have not been through family court, who left it saying, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I cannot believe that this is happening, and I can't believe I didn't know. And then the feedback from people who've been through it is, that is my story. That is exactly right. And we've even had lawyers and judges and even state Supreme Court justices that have viewed the film, all providing positive feedback. So we're really hoping that this will be a tool that will really unite us as a culture, because there's so much division. There's so many people that are impacted by this. And people are very emotional, especially if you've been through it. And it's so easy to point fingers. And we're hoping that this helps us collectively come together and rise above that and work together for solutions that ultimately are best for our children, because we don't want to leave future generations to deal with what we've had to deal with.
So it sounds like the documentary is going to be really fantastic, and I can't wait for it to premiere. And you're so right about a lot of times we talk to people, and like you said, they're aware of the extreme cases, right? But it's the fact that so many people have such a negative experience, with the court system. And one of the things that's always bothered me is that you have the terms custodial parent and non-custodial parent. Well, there's no in between term when both parents are, have joint custody. They still have to designate one as a winner and one as a loser. And that, that terminology I think it just leads to a lot of conflict. And that's really always bothered me. So hopefully, eventually we can get the laws changed to more reflect how families are actually doing these days. But I think a lot of it is awareness, and that's what your program is going to bring. Is that what you've been hearing from the folks that have seen it?
Yeah, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. People who have never been through it are walking away with a new awareness and shock. I mean, they can't believe that this actually happens and this is how the system is. Because unless you've been through it, you just don't know. So people who've never been through it are understanding, and it's presented in a format that's easy to digest and easy to understand, and it's told from parents' perspective. So you're able to connect with real people telling their stories. And again, these aren't crazy extreme cases. These are just average moms and dads who want to be in their children's lives, and the system is preventing that. We've also had judges and attorneys preview the film as well. And the feedback from them is also overwhelmingly positive. I think something we don't think about or maybe realize is we do have a lot of allies. And this is a topic I think if we really all came to the table, I think we would agree on. But there's so much hesitancy and distrust of the system. There's distrust of spouses and ex-spouses, and there's so many hurdles that are in our way that are preventing us from moving forward. So we're really hoping that this film can be a tool that we can collectively use to create the change that our children really need.
If I can just chime in and say, I screened this movie back in, what was that, November, Elizabeth? And, I didn't encounter the high conflict divorce situation. So when I sat there and watched that, I don't know that I was shocked because I had been exposed to it through my research and stuff, but I mean, the level of alienation, the level of suffering of some of these parents, just to feel like if you had your child just ripped away from you. And I just can't imagine that. And so what they've gone through and what those kids have gone through as a result is just something that needs to be addressed. It doesn't have to be that way. And so that's why earlier today, I suggested Elizabeth join tonight because I so feel that everyone should see this movie. I'm rooting for Elizabeth to get some kind of a documentary award. You know, we're in award season. I think you'd be up for it next year. So next year, documentary Oscar goes to Elizabeth McNeese for We the Parents.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I think one thing that we really want to communicate to everyone is that we're all working towards a similar goal. And it's so natural to point fingers, especially when you're going through a divorce or you've been through it and you've just kind of created this environment where you're at odds with the other parent. And it's really hard to come together. And we see a lot of pointing fingers, men pointing fingers at women, women pointing fingers at men, making it about mothers versus fathers. And really, and I think this month does that, is we have to focus on the children, and we have to understand that children need both parents. They don't need two perfect parents, but they do need their parents. And a bit, and we cover in the film, and I think it should be discussed more too, is that mothers and fathers have very different parenting styles. And I think there's a lot of confusion about that. And that prevents us from understanding the other parent. And it prevents us from collaborating with them because their parenting style is very different than ours. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I hope that through this awareness month, through the film, that we really focus on the children.
Well, Elizabeth, I just have to tell you, I'm relieved that you said we don't have to be perfect parents, right? I mean, look, nobody gets it 100% right, no matter how you do it. But you just, you do your best, and you focus on that. You focus on being a good parent. And what I say to my co-parent clients and such is focus on being a good parent and on enabling your co-parent to do the same. Not just for your kids, frankly, for you. It's going to make your life easier, right? So it makes your life easier, your kids' lives easier, everybody's life easier. Why wouldn't you figure out how to make that happen? It may sound insurmountable, but honestly, it doesn't have to be so. And, you know, so I'm glad the movie is out there to enlighten people on the need for improvement in our laws at the state levels, and also in the offering of this month-long opportunity for parents to get some information and improve their own situations. Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth, before we tie this up, I wanted to ask. This is going to be out on YouTube, right? And everybody can watch it. But I think people are being encouraged to send this to the legislators and to other people of influence. And tell us more about that.
We've been screening it privately for the past couple of months, and we did that. We released it privately first on purpose because what we ultimately want this to do is be a tool that people can use to show their legislators. The film is just under an hour, so it's not crazy long. And it doesn't cover every possible problem with family courts, and it doesn't give every possible solution. But I do believe it lays a foundation, and it gives us a place to start. And if we can show that to our legislators, show that to our judges and our attorneys and to our families, I think people will rally behind us. And I hope that it'll show people why reform is desperately needed.
Yeah, reform is desperately needed. And we've made some headway. There have been some states passed shared parenting, although that's not the only fix that needs to happen, but that's a good step in the right direction. But hopefully over the years, the legal system can change, for the better. And I think that this documentary is going to be a big step in that direction to really help open people's eyes to see that, this really is a problem, because unless you've been sort of in the middle of this, you really don't have a lot of exposure to it. So If you're out there and you're an advocate, I would encourage you to send this link. It doesn't cost anything to send a YouTube link, and ask your legislator to watch it, that sort of thing, and share it with whoever you can to try and bring awareness to this, because really, at the end of the day, it's all about awareness, and the more we can get that out there, the better off we have, the better chance we have of changing things for a positive. So I really would encourage people to share this with everybody. And before we close, anything else you guys want to cover?
Why shared parenting is so critical for children is because, well, first of all, children do need both parents. Okay, that developmentally, research has shown time and time again that what is best for children is to have two engaged parents in their lives to help raise them. And different parenting styles is part of that balance in a child's life. But legislatively, the reason shared parenting is important, and a big reason that the focus of the film is on shared parenting, is because if the courts can't recognize that children need both parents, all the other issues we have don't matter. Because as long as they don't think that children need both parents, all of the problems we have are going to persist. So that was why we chose to really hone in and set the foundation that children need both parents. And needing both parents does not mean one sees them 4 days a month. That's not what we're talking about. And a lot of judges will say, well, we believe that they should have both parents, but 4 days a month, 6 days a month is sufficient. We know that's not true. And so we want to establish that children need both parents. They need equal time with both parents. They need both parents to have authority over them, to make decisions for them, and to raise them in a way that they think is best as their parent.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever
Sorry.
said it better on this program. That's exactly right.
Yeah. I was just going to add that, there's an awful lot of mythology out there, I'll say, that giving children access to parents equally after a divorce somehow increases the exposure of a child or these ex-spouses to the risk of domestic violence. But the reality is, in states where parenting is more equal following a divorce, and there are states doing that, the statistics show just the opposite. There's less conflict. As Chris, you mentioned, it just sets everyone up for conflict, right? So if you're not setting everyone up for conflict, there's less reason for there to be domestic violence. And of course, there's always going to be situations where it doesn't make sense. And there's room for that to be considered too, but it doesn't mean we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will, and punish parents that are otherwise very valuable parents to their children.
Yeah, I mean the domestic violence argument is a little bit weak in my opinion, because if domestic violence is a concern, then somebody wouldn't be given any parenting time, you would think. So I don't know. I think it's always been kind of a weak argument, but it's one that's emotional, so it tends to work.
Yeah, good way to put it. It tends to work.
Well, Teresa and Elizabeth, thank you guys both so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time tonight. And we'll get the notes up there so everybody can go to all the links. And we really look forward to seeing We the Parents come out. And Teresa, we'll get your book out there and coaching. And really thank you so much for everything that you guys do in this community.
Yeah. Well, be sure to go to that website, because there's a lot more, other relationship and co-parenting and divorce experts that have a lot of great information to offer. So not just me, but please download mine as well.
And Elizabeth, do you want to tell us, you have a website for your documentary, right?
WeTheParentsMovie.com.
There we go.
WeTheParentsMovie.com. Most of our updates are on Facebook. We have a Facebook event for the premiere that will immediately link you to the YouTube live premiere on the 11th. And we're also on Instagram at WeTheParentsMovie also. But Facebook is primarily where all of our updates are going.
Awesome. Well, there'll be plenty of links in the show notes. And again, both of you, thank you for coming on, and wish you the best with all the endeavors here.
Thanks for having us, Chris.